We have some disturbing news coming in from Ukraine. Ukraine has claimed that it has discovered hundreds of bodies from a mass grave in the recaptured city of Izium. This, as President Volodymyr Zelensky has compared the incident with the ghastly sights from Bucha. Now, hundreds of graves were found in forests outside the recaptured city. On Friday, Ukrainian officials announced the discovery of the mass burial sites. These graves were reportedly topped with white crosses and marked with numbers. Satellite images of the Ukrainian city taken from March until August have revealed the cemetery in a nearby forest outside the city. As for Ukrainian officials, 99% of bodies exhumed from the site had reportedly signs of violent death on them. Residents of Izium even confirmed bodies of people who died during the Russian occupation were buried in the forest. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky renewed calls for the global community to recognize Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. In addition to that, he said more than 440 graves have been found at the site.
Продовжується ексгумація тіл на місці масового поховання біля Ізюму. Станом на цей час встановлено більше 440 могил. Про кількість похованих там людей ще зарано говорити, слідчі дії тривають. Вже є чіткі докази катувань, знущання з людей. Більше того, є свідчення, що російські солдати, чиї позиції були неподалік цього місця, стріляли по похованих просто для розваги. Світ повинен на все це відреагувати. Росія повторила в Ізюмі те, що зробила в Бучі. І ми зараз тільки почали дізнаватися повну правду про те, що відбувалося у цей час на Харківщині.
The reported discovery of mass graves has brought condemnation from the world bodies and several Kiev allies. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, meanwhile, says that it will send a team to the recently captured eastern city so that it can verify claims of Ukrainian officials regarding the discovery of a mass grave. The US calls the incident horrifying.
I also want to just take a moment to address the reports that we've been seeing today out of Izium and the potential here for mass graves, which in Izium, as you know, Ukraine just recently liberated from Russian control. The reports that we're seeing just in general are more than 440 graves, which reportedly includes civilians, and it's horrifying. It's repugnant.
As of now, Moscow is yet to comment on the atrocity. And although Russia has regularly denied targeting civilians in the past, it has said the accusations of human rights abuses are a smear campaign against them. And now, for more on this, we are being joined by Yehor Brelian, who is coming to us from Kiev. Yehor is a journalist and is covering the international security and defense cooperation of Ukraine. Thank you for being with us on this broadcast. Now, what are the latest details that you have for us on these graves from the recaptured city of Izium?
So, hello, I want to say that the whole process of finding and exhumation the bodies started yesterday in the cemetery near Izium. And as of now, the investigators, the National Police of Ukraine, they have found almost 500 bodies of people who have been killed with violent deaths by the Russian army, and the process of this finding bodies and its burial will continue next week. And I want to say that these facts and these photos have shocked all Ukrainians. And I want to emphasize one very important fact, that on one hand of a dead woman, it was found a bracelet with the colors of Ukrainian national flag. yellow and blue. And this bracelet was on just the bones of arm without any skin. And from these scenes and from these horrific bodies, I can say only one thing. Russians and Russian army, they make no difference for Ukrainians. If they live in Kiev region, Bucha massacre, or they live in Kharkiv region, and we don't know the actual situation in the south, in Kherson region, in Mariupol, in some parts of Mykolaiv region, Zaporizhia region. And the facts of mass killing by Russians, the Ukrainians, can help the world to understand the real mood of Russian army and the Russian society in general, because Russians, they don't see us Ukrainians as an independent nation. And I hope that these horrific scenes and horrific photos and horrific facts of mass genocide will help to investigate the Russian war crimes, and that all Russian war criminals will be executed, because it's a real genocide of Ukrainians, a real genocide of an independent nation in the center of Europe. And the world must act now. And I hope that this Izium massacre will show you in all over the world that Bucha, unfortunately, was only the beginning of Russian actions against Ukraine. And we don't know actually what is happening right now in the Kherson region, in Mariupol, because it could be much worse situation than we've seen in Bucha, and especially what we see in Izium now. And Izium, before the Russian occupation, was quite a nice city of farmers, but it was very close to Russia, and all these people who have had their own houses, cars, so-called middle class, they were killed by Russians.
Right. Now, Yehor, how do you look at Moscow's repeated denial of targeting civilians?
They've always denied that they didn't hit the civilian infrastructure, they didn't hit schools, hospitals, maternity hospitals. So it's their usual logic, so that only Ukrainian army can stay and can use some school as the military base. But come on, Ukrainians, we are on our land. We do not want to conquer other territories. We just want to liberate our territory, and that's all. And the world, especially in the global south, these countries of South Asia, Southeastern Asia, Africa, people in these countries, they must understand that Russia is a problem, and Russia is a global problem. And what Russia is doing in the Sahel region, for example, how they destabilize the situation in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, is a global problem. And we must cooperate in this field. And you don't have to trust Russia. It's it's a false logic to trust their officials, because they lie. They always lie. And the main solution for all of us is to follow the Ukrainian narrative so that Russia is a terrorist state and it must be recognized as a state of sponsoring terrorism. And only by punishing Russia, only after punishing Russia, Ukraine will win. And this process depends on India as well.
Yes, absolutely. Lastly, could you reflect for us briefly on the Ukraine success in taking back the huge areas after pushing back the Russian troops?
I want to say one very simple thing. It's our triumph. It's the triumph of the Ukrainian army, but we have to remember that it has a price of dead Ukrainian soldiers, of dead Ukrainian civilians, of mass repressions against Ukrainians. And Russian reply to our success in Kharkiv region was obvious. They started to hit the infrastructure. They want to blackmail Ukrainian population. If you don't want to surrender, we will cut off you from gas, electricity, and water. But Ukrainians are united. We will stand and we will win.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being with us on this broadcast and bringing us all of those details and analysis there.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.